Nazi Einsatzgruppen and their collaborators. This massacre was of nearly 34,000 Jewish men, women and children in Babyn in the Nazi-occupied Ukraine in 1941. Today, we honor the memory of all of those who perished and remind ourselves to never forget. Today's commemoration event is hosted by the Johannesburg Holocaust Genocide Centre in partnership with the Ukrainian Embassy in Pretoria in South Africa. This event will also feature the opening of a special exhibition. We are honored to have with us Ukrainian Ambassador, Her Excellency Liubov Abravitova, who will also address us. We are also honored to have founder and executive director of the Johannesburg Holocaust Genocide Centre, Director Tali Nates, who will also address us. And so at this time, it is my privilege to call upon Ukrainian Ambassador, Her Excellency Liubov Abravitova, to address us.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Good day, dear friends and colleagues, and all of those who join us today on the live stream. Today we are gathering not only to open the exhibition. We are gathering to be honest to each other. First and foremost, to be honest with ourselves. As all we know, to be honest is sometimes very difficult and painful. Every year in March in Ukraine, the Shevchenko National Prize is awarded for the highest achievements in the field of culture. What is important? The National Prize is awarded in order of the President, by the order of the President of Ukraine. In 2020, this award was given to the book by Ukrainian poet Marina Kianovska, and the title is Babyn Voices. When my colleague was helping me with the speech, she proposed me to cite several poems from the book. And I was very scared to do so, because emotions are coming out of yourself, and you cannot control them when you read it. This book is about polyphony and the diversity of the voices of victims of the Babyn tragedy. The poems in the book are written on behalf of Kievans of Jewish descent, prisoners of war, mental hospitals, patients, communists and nationalists. In each verse in the book, the voice of the victim of the Babyn, or a witness to the tragedy. The poet tells the story on their behalf. When the collection was published, many of us recognized the stories of our dead relatives. Among them are many children's voices. And this was the biggest shock for the poet. Out of 302 poems written in 6 months, the book included just 62. And she paid her health while she was writing these poems. We see it is not easy to speak about Babyn, but it is necessary. It is time to break the silence which dominated during the Soviet times and even in the times after the USSR collapse. As you all know, national and religious policy of the USSR was formatted by Stalin, who fought with the Jewish culture, with synagogues, with language, even with Jewish cemeteries. In today's Ukraine, we realize the importance of memory and justice. We are ready to commemorate the victims of Babyn Yar Massacre and to speak in a full voice about this tragedy. This case of Shevchenko National Prize for the book Babyn Yar Voices could be an example of how central the issue of this massacre and proper commemoration of Babyn is in Ukraine. Another example is the powerful program of the commemorating the 18th anniversary of Babyn tragedy, which is preparing by the Ukrainian side under the auspices of the President of Ukraine later this year in October. Today, being aware of the scale of the catastrophe, we have no doubt how important to remember, to think, and to speak despite the pain, contrary to the time and its laws, one of which is abolition. First of all, in order to prevent similar catastrophes in the future. Concluding my speech, I want to say about the list of the writers among the nations in Yar Massacre, where Ukrainians rescued the number of 2,620 people. People who risked their lives to save other people. We're so proud as Ukrainians to be the fourth largest nation of rescuers. I want to thank the Johannesburg Centre of Holocaust Genocide and all the team who was supporting us in the preparation of this exhibition. I want to thank the Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance for providing us with this exhibition. And I thank everyone who joins us today to remember victims of Babyn massacre.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So it is once again my privilege to call upon Director Tali Nates to address us.
Honorable guests, it is indeed an honor to be here and to open this important exhibition to mark the 80th anniversary of the Babyn massacre. It is regarded as one of the largest mass killings at an individual site during the Second World War. Actually, there were only two others that were larger. One in Odessa of over 50,000, mainly Jews, by the German and Romanian units in October of 1941. No one is speaking about Odessa. This is still removed from memory. The second one, we speak about more, and that is a two-day shooting in Operation Harvest Festival, named by the Nazis, Harvest Festival, in Majdanek, next to Lublin in what is today Poland. And it was occupied Poland, of course, at that time, in November of 1943. And you can still see the sites of that mass shooting when you go and visit Majdanek Memorial, where between 42 and 43,000 prisoners, mainly Jewish victims, were shot. But Babyn, what is the story there? At that time, of course, Kiev was the capital of Soviet Ukraine. And we need to go back and think of a capital city, Kiev, Paris, London, and think of an occupation that takes almost all, a minority group, march them out of the city and shoot them in 2 days. It's actually, if it was Paris, we would not even imagine it. And that's what happened. Because on the 22nd of June 1941, when the German army, the Wehrmacht, invaded the Soviet Union, home to an estimated 3.5 million Jews at that time, in all that territory. There were about 160,000 Jews in Kiev, but they had warning and they majority of them escaped the city. Only less than 60,000 actually remain behind. The army, the German army, was followed, of course, by special killing units that we know is the Einsatzgruppen. And my colleague Du already spoke about them briefly. They entered Kiev on the 19th of September. And there is new footage of that invasion that I just watched actually this morning. Just came out, and it's very, very scary to watch that invasion. On the 29th of September 1941, the Jews of Kiev were ordered to gather near the Jewish cemetery. They were promised resettlement, and they were told to bring their belongings. That's what they did, because you don't think that you are going to be shot. So they were then led to the nearby ravine of Babyn, and we forced them to hand over their belongings, to undress, and to lie face down before being shot. And as you heard, over the next 2 days, during the Jewish festival, the holiest of days of Yom Kippur, that we will actually commemorate next week. So it's exactly 80 years next week. 33,771 Jewish men, women, and children were shot by members of the Einsatzgruppen C, by auxiliaries, and by collaborators. What is interesting is that the Nazis tried to hide the evidence after. And that shows you something when someone tries to hide evidence. And they attempted to order prisoners, including prisoners of war, but other prisoners, to exhume the bodies and to burn them. In the months following this 2 days massacre, the German authorities stationed in Kiev killed thousands more. And again, this is something that is not spoken about, but is spoken about in this excellent exhibition. In those massacres, more Jews were killed, but also many Roma, what we know as gypsies at that time, derogatory term, communist officials, Soviet prisoners of war, and many what were regarded as Soviet citizens, because they were all under the Soviet Union. And an estimated over 100,000 actually were killed in that site. So this is huge. This is bigger than one of the extermination camps I mentioned. In Majdanek, that is an extermination site, 78,000 were murdered altogether. So this is a large site of murder. The Soviet army liberated Kiev on the 6th of November 1943. And in January of 1946, proceedings in Kiev tried 15 members of the German police and also Ukrainian collaborators for the crimes at Babi. And I actually this morning listened again to some of the testimonies. They are again available. It's new footage that the Babi Memorial found out, and there is an excellent film that went to the Cannes Festival called Babi Yar Context. It got really good reviews, and I hope we can show it. One of those documentary footage is from Dina Mikhailova Prodnitseva. She was one of the few survivors of the shootings at Babi Yar, and she gave her testimony before the Soviet military court against the German accused and the Ukrainian collaborators, members of the regular police and special gendarmerie who were deployed in the Kiev region. And I'm quoting from her testimony. By the way, her story is quite tragic because she showed sort of documents that she tried to prove that she's not Jewish. And they put her aside with few men and women, and she watched the whole shooting the whole day. And then the Germans came when it became dark. They asked, who are these people? And when the Ukrainians said, no, they are not Jewish, the Germans said, we cannot have any witnesses, you shoot them all. And they took them to shoot them, and you will hear his story. The policeman ordered me to undress and shoved me towards the group of Jews standing at the pit. I fell onto the bed, the dead. By the way, she sort of jumped before she was shot. Then the bodies of those who had been shot fell on top of me. I noticed that I had not been hit. The shooting continued. I pushed the corpses away from me, afraid lest I be buried alive. I did this very cautiously so as not to be detected by the police. Suddenly, it all stopped. It became quiet. It grew dark. The Germans gave the wounded who were still alive the final fatal shot. I noticed that above me there was also someone standing, and I simulated a dead person, although it was hard to keep that up. Then I felt that we were being buried, covered with earth. When I was certain that no one was nearby and could see, I shook the earth off my body. Before me, I saw a pit full of thousands of dead people. And then she got out of the pit. She found help, and she survived the war. And you can watch her testimony in black and white, speaking of course Russian, in that form. Now, of course, the Einsatzgruppen killed probably 1.5 million throughout Eastern Europe. So Lithuania, Latvia, Belarus, Russia, throughout that area, they moved from village to village, from town to town, and killed Jews. They killed communist officials, they killed Roma and Sinti, thousands of disabled, sick and disabled people, and they murdered them all. And of course, as we mentioned, local collaborators helped as well. And entire Jewish communities were rounded up. In March, it started in July with men, and in August already women and children were murdered. Those thousands of killing sites, we call them, are discovered more and more. One of the organizations that is involved also in Babi Memorial now is an organization that we partner with, and that is Yachad in Unu. It's a Paris-based organization led by Father Patrick Dubois. And it's important to remember all those sites. So you can learn more about the history of the Babi Yar site, its memorialization, and lessons through this important exhibition we are opening today. Please also visit our permanent exhibition that tells the story of the Einsatzgruppen, tells the story of Babi Yar, Ponar, Rondula, and other sites, the sites in Minsk as well, the Mali-Trotstanet site, and many, many more. And please learn about the work of Yachad in Unu, because they're doing really important work of interviewing witnesses. They're 90 years old, but they are interviewing them and filming them and asking them the difficult questions of what did you see when you were children? And it's the last chance that they have to tell their stories. I also invite you to access the website of the new memorial at Babi Yar, excellent website, and that is it's babinyar, one word, .org, and you can learn much more there. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Your Excellency Abravitova. Thank you, Director Tali Nates, for those addresses. Excellencies, directors, guests, colleagues, thank you very much for joining us in this session, in this event. At this point in time, I would like to invite you to please explore the exhibition, this excellent exhibition, and then thereafter, please enjoy the light refreshments that have been provided outside. Thank you very much, and for those of you who've been joining us via streaming, thank you very much for being part of this event. Thank you.